Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to the 9th Annual Short Circuit Pacific Rim Film Festival. My name is David Geis, Executive Director of CineVic Society of Independent Filmmakers. CineVic acknowledges and respects the long history of the ʷəŋən-speaking people now known as the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations, as well as the Wasanich First Nation, on whose traditional and unceded territory we carry out our activities. The colonial name for this region is Vancouver Island, British Columbia, Canada, and our headquarters is in the city of Victoria, where I'm coming at you live right now. CineVic is an artist-run society supporting independent filmmakers and media artists with accessible programming, affordable equipment, professional development resources, and cinematic exhibition opportunities since 1991. And Short Circuit is our annual showcase of short films from over 30 countries around the Pacific Rim. This year is our biggest festival ever, with 50 films streaming on demand until May 31st. Many filmmaker Q&As. If you missed any from last week, you can still watch the recordings. And for the locals in Victoria, we have an outdoor mini cinema with all the films running 24/7 in Odeon Alley, aka Millie's Lane, just outside of CineVic headquarters. We also have the 5th edition of our CineSpark program coming up this week. The live pitch event is this Wednesday, May 19th at 7 p.m. Pacific time. Also streaming live on YouTube. This year's top 5 screenwriters will pitch their short film ideas to a panel of judges, and one winner will walk away with a production package of cash, equipment, and resources valued at over $17,500, courtesy of CineVic, William F. White International, and Moto Carshare Co-op. Check out all the info for the festival and get your tickets at shortcircuitfilmfestival.com. We're proud to be setting a new standard of sharing ticket sales equally with all of our filmmakers. So please help us spread the word and support artists around the world. Speaking of funding, a big thank you to our funders: Canada Council for the Arts, BC Arts Council, Province of British Columbia, CRD Arts Service, and a new sponsor this year, Telefilm Canada. Thanks so much. So this year we're broadcasting our Filmmaker Q&As live on YouTube. Please type your questions in the chat and we'll do our best to answer them. Please also include the name of the filmmaker to whom you're directing your question, just so we know who to ask. If you don't see the chat box, make sure you click a button somewhere that says live chat or show chat button, just so it shows up. And be aware that your question and screen name may be selected to appear on screen. The recording of this video will stay up on YouTube after we're done here today, so please help us like, subscribe, and share this video. Alrighty, now to introduce our moderator for today's Q&A, Darlene Tait, also in Victoria. Hello, Darlene. Darlene has had extensive film training at the Victoria Screen Actors Studio, and her strong business background has made her an invaluable asset to the independent film community, where she frequently consults to and is engaged on local productions. She's a well-known producer of local films, and as an actor is frequently seen in commercials for tourism, real estate, air travel, and much more. Darlene sits on the boards of directors of the Vancouver Island South Film and Media Commission, Women in Film and Television Vancouver, and CineVic Society of Independent Filmmakers. She's our current president. Alrighty, welcome, Darlene, and I'll hand it over. Take it away.
Thank you, David, and remind me to update that bio, and welcome to my laundry room. So what I'd like to do to get started today is to introduce you to the filmmakers who are joining us. And then we're going to sit back and we just want you to participate with us in a conversation with these filmmakers. So I'm going to start by introducing the first filmmaker who has he was the director of Alone in the Arctic Skies, Noah Penner. So Noah has roots in the Comox Valley and has settled in Vancouver to focus his career on the local film industry. A lot of his inspiration comes from his love of history and outdoor adventure, and he plans to continue building his storytelling repertoire as a screenwriter, director, and producer. His film tells the story about a lone CF-104 starfighter pilot during the Cold War flying over the Canadian Arctic. He is hit by a fierce storm and left with only a small fuel supply and no way to navigate home. So you can tell there's just a little tension in that film. And then we have next Jeremy Lutter, a well-known filmmaker, and his film in this year's offerings, We Came from the Sea. Now, Jeremy is 6'7" tall and has been asked to play the monster in so many people's movies he decided to start making his own. He is a genre director who tells stories with monsters, robots, and unique fantasy worlds. His work has played at over 100 festivals and won many awards. We Came from the Sea shows us Einar, an addict who was recently abandoned by his wife and 5-year-old daughter. And as he fights to go clean in their oceanside home, he is haunted by an uninvited stranger. Next up is Deanna Milligan, who was the director of Lucid from Salt Spring Island. Deanna is an award-winning actress and filmmaker with over 25 years experience in the film industry. She produced a narrative short film called Do We Leave This Here, which screened at Vancouver International Film Festival, NWFF, Glasgow Short Film Festival, and Dead Center. Her first short film, Cascadia, screened at the Lucid Dreams Festival and Sick Chick Flicks. Deanna created the documentary web series Hands On, which explores women artists who work with their hands. Deanna and her team were the winners of the 2019 CineSpark pitch competition with her screenplay Lucid, and the finished film is currently streaming at this year's Short Circuit. She's also on this year's CineSpark jury panel for the pitch event coming up this Wednesday at 7 p.m. Next, we have Connor and Vaughn Gaston, who were I believe, you can correct me later if I'm wrong, but co-wrote and co-directed Ohrwurm, or Earwig. Vaughn and Connor Gaston are filmmakers from here in Victoria, BC. Their work has screened at film festivals around the world, including Toronto International Film Festival. This film depicts an ex-Stasi informant holed up in her apartment who has her world upended when her estranged son arrives to give her a birthday present. So there we go. That is our lineup of participating filmmakers today. And a reminder, as David had mentioned, to please use the Q&A box, which, sorry, I'm just new platform. So if I fumble a little bit, I'll try my best not to, but there might be a little bit. So generally, I would like this to be more like coffee with filmmakers. So please feel free to pop your questions in. I'm going to get us started. Filmmakers also are invited to be asking each other questions. So just keep it casual. Let's learn something and share some experiences in this whole world of telling stories. So first story, or first question that I'd like to hear from everybody. Are there any kind of influential directors whose films, when they come out, are like, you can't miss them? There is this one director, anytime he or she releases a film, I've got to get out there and watch it. Is there anybody that stands out for you as the don't miss director? Deanna, it sounds like you're humming and hawing. Well, even if it's not a don't miss director, is there anybody that really comes to fore for you that is a very powerful or influential director?
I'm actually interested in Anna Lily Amirpour, and in her films, I'm pretty excited to see what she's doing. And she has a new film coming out, or is out now, maybe in the Film Fest circuit. Mona Lisa and the Blood Moon. Have any of you guys seen that one? I don't know if that's out yet, but I love her and the way that she tells stories, and are really unique, and they're all genre films that I love.
Is there a specific element to it that you're particularly attracted to in her filmmaking?
I think it's just the boldness of what she's doing as a female filmmaker, that she's not afraid of gore. I think that's kind of an unusual aspect of the kind of films that she makes, and she does genre films in a really, like, in a strong way, but I feel like a feminine way as well. So I find her really inspiring.
Great. Noah, how about you? Have you got anybody who jumps out as being hugely influential or impactful for you?
I mean, honestly, Darlene, it depends on what day you ask me. There's just too many to count, and I could mention anyone from Xavier Dolan to Carl Theodor Dreyer. But what I will say is that I think, with all the streaming resources and all the time we've had on our hands over the past few months, it's been a good time to explore a lot of new and old filmographies, and there's just, yeah, there's too many influences to point to, really.
Okay, fair enough. Jeremy.
As a huge lover of cinema, like I watch a lot of stuff, and I do love a lot of like big time people, like back in the day, like it was like David Fincher and David Cronenberg and Wes Anderson and all that. But I got to say, you asked me like who gets me the most excited, and this is going to sound a bit cheesy, but it's actually the filmmakers that I know personally. Those are actually the ones that fit the bill of what you were saying. Like when Denver Jackson makes a new movie, I'm totally excited to see it because I can talk to him about it. And it's like, and as the more I make movies, like it's the Gigi Saul Guerreros or the Zach Lepowskis or the Connor Gastons, or like, you know, it's the people I could talk to about their movies.
Yeah.
You know, like that's the thing that gets me most excited about it, to honestly answer that question.
I totally get that. I totally get that. That's really exciting. And I don't know what it is, but there just feels like there's that tiny bit stronger of a connection, just because you know them and you know you can talk to them about their film. So I totally get that.
I just find it the most helpful too, like in terms of that sort of thing.
And interestingly, you and Connor both had Denver working on your films that are screening this year. So Connor, who's the big?
Yeah, I like Jeremy's answer, but I'll give a different one, I guess. I guess like Yorgos Lanthimos is a really exciting filmmaker for me. Whatever he's coming up with next, I'm really eager to watch. I think he does an excellent job of making incredibly bold stylistic choices, and just his aesthetic is, I think, singular. And he does a good job of still making accessible movies for a wide audience while being utterly unique. And it's someone I look up to. Yeah.
Are you watching a lot of stuff during this pandemic? I know you've been busy teaching as well, but are you watching a lot of film or?
A fair amount.
Yeah.
Yeah. Try and catch 1 or 2 movies a week.
Oh, a week. I try and catch 1 or 2 a day but I probably have a lot less going on than you do. So that's my excuse. Now, that was obviously very general about directors. And I want to do a second general one about iconic films. And the reason I'm asking is because I think films are iconic to different people for different reasons. So are any of you able to point to the iconic film for you? One you've probably watched multiple times, or, you know, is there an iconic film in Deanna Milligan's past?
Yeah, that changes a lot too, depending on what I'm currently working on or researching. And I got an amazing gift from my boyfriend for Christmas for a Fellini box set from Criterion. So we were, you know, I'm super influenced by all the Fellini films that I didn't know, that I got to watch, and there's so much beautiful imagery in those films, and love that. So we've been watching a lot of Mubi and Criterion and things like that, and seeing films that I guess normally are on the film festival circuit that you're sometimes lucky enough to see if you have a film in the festival, but you know, we haven't been going to any film festivals, obviously. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
I just always find it interesting, you know, that whatever that iconic film or that iconic director is for people, because it then kind of twigs me in when I watch the work of that filmmaker. It stays in my brain when I'm watching their films. So if I'm able to see any of those influences in their film.
For sure, for Lucid, I mean, we're going through a big giallo kind of stage where we're interested in Dario Argento movies, like the old Italian sexploitation horror films. So, you know, where the blood is like bright pink and there's like lots of crazy music and sort of ASMR kind of sounds and things like that. So those were a big influence when we were doing Lucid, and those were all the films I was watching were Dario Argento films, and the first Suspiria was one that I kept pulling images from for Lucid.
Yeah.
So that was the big thing then. Right now I'm on to a different script, so I'm sort of looking at different kinds of films. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember actually that now that you're saying that, I remember there were images in your pitch that were quite evocative of that. Going back.
Yeah, and then like the super extreme close-ups of those kinds of films and that disorienting kind of feeling that they have. So those are what I was trying to evoke with some of the planning that we were doing for Lucid.
Yeah. Okay, great. Connor, is there an iconic film for you?
Not really. I mean, I think it changes as well. For Earwig, we watched Xavier Dolan's Mommy in terms of inspiration for framing, especially. We watched that with our DP. And I'd also point to Alex Garland's Ex Machina, that dancing scene. Really kind of inspired us to try and do something similar in our film. Just the shift in tone, I think is really compelling and something that we try and to do in our work.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Noah, any outstanding particular film that really affected you or altered your choices moving forward?
Honestly, I think the film that affected me the most over the last year, especially, you know, with all of the isolation and loneliness that we've all experienced in our own way, was actually 3 Colors Red by Krzysztof Kieslowski. I'm 100% sure I'm not pronouncing his name correctly, but it's just this deceptively simple film about the relationships and the fraternity between people, and how it all kind of ties into this grand narrative of life. And every time I watch it, I get something new out of it. It's just an extraordinary film.
Great. And do you find it influential then as you're making directorial choices?
Not a whole lot, no. I think it's very well directed, and the way Kieslowski chose to use the score definitely affects how I've worked with composers. He kind of uses it as a character, so to speak. It's not kind of telling you what's already in the scene. It's kind of pushing forward new ideas. That's not a style I've really seen a lot of, at least consciously. So I've wanted to use that more and more as of late.
Okay, great. Thanks. Jeremy.
I was about to say that my initial big iconic film was Fight Club a long time ago. That was the thing that got me excited about filmmaking. And then I was going to say, but like that was way a long time ago. It doesn't influence me at all now. And then I realized that the movie that I was screening here is a doppelganger movie, and Fight Club is a doppelganger movie. And then I was like, interesting. Clearly it still has some effect. Maybe not stylistically, but it's still like it's some deeply embedded thing. But it's very project dependent though, and like right now, like Hereditary is a thing that I've is kind of like the iconic film of the moment or whatever, like in terms of the thing that inspired me most about storytelling, and it does change like over time.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, you know, you bring up, and that's the reason I asked that question, because just like, I mean, as human beings, different experiences growing up shape who we are, and even though we've long maybe put aside those experiences, unless we actually examine them, we don't realize how impactful they were and how much they influence us. And when you ask filmmakers, their directors or impactful films, I think a lot of them actually forget, or I shouldn't say forget, but it's almost like you stop being aware of how much of an influence those films or that director has been on your career. But once you know it, you can almost start to see elements of it in the story making going forward. So that's kind of why I asked that. Thanks, Jeremy. And Vaughn, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Sorry I'm late. I had my my vaccine appointment, and I couldn't really.
How's the arm feeling?
Shoulder's a little bit sore, but everything else feels fine.
Great. I hate to tell you, Vaughn, your arm's going to hurt like a son of a bitch tomorrow.
Oh, really? Well.
And hopefully that's the only side effect to experience.
Hopefully, yeah.
But I don't know if that was everybody else's experience, but holy moly. Okay. Anyway, we're glad you joined us.
Thanks. Yeah. No, happy to be here.
Now, okay, this will be, I promise, the last really broad general, and then we're going to actually get into your films. But so filmmakers, everybody makes films for different reasons. Some people like to affect social change. Some people like to, inspire some more critical thinking into different areas. And some people like to entertain. It can be as simple as that. Is there a general motivation for you in storytelling that you're out to do? Are you wanting people to kind of explore different themes, start to think of social issues in a different way, or you just want somebody to laugh, be terrified, or kind of any of those entertainment elements? Vaughn, I'm going to throw you right onto the hot seat. So, as a writer, a director, is there a motivation for you? Like, why do you do this? What are you trying to do here?
Yeah, for me, I always think that my first responsibility is to entertain. I don't think, no matter how profound or important your message is, no one's gonna watch it if it's not entertaining.
Right.
So that's my first, for me personally, my first responsibility is to be entertaining and to have fun doing it myself. But that being said, if it's only entertaining the whole way through and doesn't ever, kind of delve into that level of importance, or then I feel like I haven't really done my job, or I'm not really satisfied with the work until it's kind of surprised me and become something that's more than just fun to do, and something that's actually kind of challenging or surprisingly, oh, I didn't know that a character thought that way, or that the story would take that turn, and then it becomes something that kind of teaches me. And then if I'm being taught by it, then I feel like a viewer will probably be taught something too. I always kind of believe in that. I think it was Robert Frost, the no surprise for the writer, no surprise for the reader. But I think in order to let yourself be surprised, I think you kind of have to just enjoy it and have fun with it at the start.
Yeah. Great answer. Great answer. Jeremy, why do you do this?
The longer I make films, I realize I don't have any answers, and I'm just asking questions. And that is like my main motivation for making movies, is just to ask questions, to try and spur a conversation, or to, like, if somebody walks out of the film at the end of the day with wanting to talk about a topic or like raise some kind of conversation, I think that would probably be the goal if I had to put it into words. Just to raise questions, or to spur on people to talk about things, and that sort of thing.
Well, that was very apparent in your film this year. So that's great. Noah.
That's such a tough question, and I have to say, Jeremy and Vaughn, I think you two put it perfectly in your answers. I feel like I don't have an answer. Professionally, I would point to just entertainment, and I want people to enjoy my work. But I think on a personal level, there's a sense that when you create something that's very personal and heartfelt, and somebody tells you later that they connected with it and shares how they did connect with it, and maybe it's not what you intended. Maybe it's something in their own life that they were able to kind of a lens they were able to see through. To me, that makes it worthwhile. It's kind of that sharing of experiences, and everyone kind of seeing it in their own way. That makes it all worthwhile. Yeah,
got it. Deanna, how about you? Why are you doing this? And your films are quite different from some of the others here. So I'm really intrigued by what you might have to say, your motivation or what it is you are up to generally as a filmmaker?
Right? Good question. Yeah, I think entertaining for sure. People is important. But I do like things that have like a magic realism or fantastical element or a genre element to them. But it has to have a important connection to something real and something that I have a personal connection to, so that I can dig into it. And I think it's because I have a background in acting, so I'm looking for that like emotional core that it has to, and I want to use the fantastical elements to kind of magnify that in a unpredictable sort of way. So yeah, a little bit of both, I guess, a little personal and entertaining.
Yeah. Well, I always like to look at the kind of the sticky factor of a film, and by that, how long it stays with me, and for any of the reasons that you've all stated, either because the tension in it, or the way it made me think about an issue, or just how lighthearted, or whatever the thing was, is the kind of the sticky factor for me is how long it stays with me afterwards. And now I'm looking at the time and thinking David Geist must be having a fit, because it's almost half an hour and I haven't even talked about the films yet. So let's move on to the film. So let me see. I think we're going to start with Earwurm, which was the collaboration between brothers Gaston, Vaughn, and Connor. This film, which they traveled to Berlin to film, is about an ex-Stasi informant holed up in her apartment and has her world upended when her estranged son arrives to give her a birthday present. So, David, I can't remember. Were you going to show a clip? Or am I going right into questions?
No clips, no. I might bring up some images and stuff at some time, but no clips, nope. Okay,
I just kind of forgot about our process there. Okay. So with you two, one of the first questions that pops up is, you co-write, you co-direct. How does that collaborative process actually work? Like, is one of you primary in one of those roles, or?
It's a lot of fighting.
Okay.
Which is fun. It's part of the process. I don't know. I mean, I'll write a draft, and then Vaughn will take it and change it all, and then I'll change it back to what I had, and then he'll change it again. But no, more seriously, I think we share the responsibilities pretty evenly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'd say with the directing, I'd say Connor usually has more control of like the cinematography, the camera and the lighting, all that, and I probably maybe work with the actors a little bit more. But that's like, I mean, that it would change on a film by film basis, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's pretty much even. We do a lot of talking about things. We go on a lot of walks. We talk through things a lot, and like usually, like the majority of the script will just get written orally between us, which is kind of the process.
Interesting. Well, having been on set with the two of you, the iconic image from working with you both has got to be standing back, two heads together in front of the camera monitor, shoulder to shoulder, Connor doing what he's doing here, and just back and forth, the whispering about that shot. And so I love how you guys work together, and I think that collaboration, whatever fighting you do, I suspect just strengthens the work, is my suspicion. Yeah. Okay.
I hope so.
And you're both teaching also at UVic, correct?
Yeah.
And Connor, what are you teaching?
Screenwriting and film production.
And Vaughn?
I do screenwriting and fiction.
Okay, great. So if you can just summarize very quickly, what was the film about to you? And the hardest thing is really interviewing people whose films are in the screening process, because I never want to give anything away, but I know what it was about to me. I'm wondering what it was about to you.
I mean, generally speaking, besides like plot, to me, it was very much about isolation and paranoia. But I'm not sure to answer that. I mean, I'd be more curious to hear what you thought it's about.
I don't want to say anything until Vaughn's had a chance, if he wants to.
Yeah, no, I think Connor's got that. I honestly don't like. I mean, this might sound like unprofessional or something, but those big kind of thematic questions, I'm not really that concerned about. I'm concerned about scene by scene, line by line, like, you know, how to get the scene, how to get the scene how to make the scene have more tension, or how to make this character more nervous, or things like that. But yeah, isolation, paranoia. It went through a lot of drafts where it wasn't about German stuff, Stasi stuff at all, you know. And once we were in Berlin, we kind of like started going to museums and doing research and got inspired and wanted to make it kind of about Berlin in a sense. So like bringing that element into it was really interesting. But again, that's more of like, it just made the plot better, more than like this was an interesting theme to include. It happened to be an interesting theme, but that we didn't do it to up thematics in any way. It's just we're just worried about, you know, story structure and technique, and just making things kind of more alive or something.
Well, to answer Connor, and I'll try and keep it brief, to me it was all about limiting beliefs, and about how much our histories really shape us, and the need to be constantly asking the question, does it still serve us? Does our history still serve us? And in this case, I'd say not so much. Yeah, that's really, I sat with it for a little while after, kind of trying to see what the effect was. And that was it for me, was the nature of limiting beliefs and our history's impact on decisions going forward. So that's what I got.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move along then. Thank you both. To, let me see. Alone in the Arctic Skies. So Noah, this was a film fraught with tension for me as a viewer, lots of tension in it. And this was about, in the Cold War, a lone CF-104 starfighter pilot over the Canadian Arctic, hit by a fierce storm and left with only a small fuel supply and no way to navigate home. So you'd mentioned that there really wasn't huge themes or messages in your work. So was your intent here to do what this film did for me, which was just kind of the edge of the seat, the tension involved?
Oh no, not at all. There's a lot going on there that I intended and wanted people to feel, but at the same time, what I'm so happy with about the film is that everyone connects with it in their own way. I know what the film is about to me, but what really matters is what it's about to everyone who sees it. And I've heard different responses, but they all kind of coalesce around the same theme that I intended.
And there was a lot of trying to determine reality levels within it as well. And the question I'm dying to ask, but I can't because it totally gives away the end. Maybe I'll ask you off screen later. But the technical side of it, most of it, or 90% of it, taking place inside that cockpit. What was your experience around doing that? I mean, from a production standpoint, you know, once you secure that plane, it looked like, along with special effects, it would have been I don't want to make it sound like it was easy, but relatively so. And because I'm thinking as a producer where you've got different locations and all that. So there were elements of it that seemed a little bit more manageable from a production standpoint. How was it technically? Like, how was your experience in putting all those elements together to create the story and the tension that went along with it?
Well, I think that one thing I always strive to do in working on these kind of historical stories is just a certain level of authenticity. I don't like to obsess about minute details that aren't going to affect the broader story, but once we secured the cockpit of the plane and we had our actor just sit in there, and he didn't even leave half the time because it was a real pain to actually get out and into the cockpit. He kind of got to experience the journey of the character. It helps that we shot the film chronologically. So once he was in there, he just, it was his plane and we were just working around him. And, I mean, to get up to the cockpit, even I had to climb a little ladder. So, whenever I wanted to give directions to him, I had to be very deliberate. But I mean, it wasn't any more challenging than most other productions. You have your location, you work with it, and you find creative solutions to the problems that arise.
And your special effects, it looks like you had some strong people working on that as well.
We did, yes. We had the very talented Calvin Romain working with us. He's actually working for ILM, but he loves doing these side projects and just fantastic talent. I think the big thing I learned about visual effects from this project, besides just knowing more of the workflow about how to achieve more for less, is just, once you know what you're doing, once you know the rules of how to light and frame a shot that's going to involve visual effects, you can do anything. I mean, I think one of the proudest moments I have on a technical standpoint during the production was when Calvin actually just went home because he was so content that we knew what we were doing that he didn't need to be around during our overnight shoot schedule just to look over our shoulder and make sure the green screen was lit correctly.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Noah. Let's move on to Jeremy and We Came from the Sea. So We Came from the Sea focuses on Einar, an addict recently abandoned by his wife and 5-year-old daughter, and he's fighting to go clean in their oceanside home where he is haunted by an uninvited stranger. Gorgeous location, absolutely gorgeous. Can you tell us where that was, Jeremy?
Yeah, I can. It was in West Vancouver. It was a fellow let us shooting there, thankfully. Yeah, it was way up in West Vancouver, just on the shore there. It was like a vacation rental, I guess, that we contacted. And luckily he loved movies. And he was, very into the idea of having a movie shot there, because it was, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, wow, just that starkness of the location with the background was pretty much exactly what we were looking for. And,
were your exterior scenes, like out in the boat and that, were those also filmed in that same location?
Yeah. No, they all were. They were all green screen. The boat was like 100% green screen.
Really?
On the thing. And it was, Denver was helping me put all of that together. But I had shot a film called Floodplain on a raft before, and I had gone through all of that, like trying to get things in frame and then bouncing around. And when I approached this thing, I was like, shooting on this boat isn't a lot different than shooting like a car scene where you just put up a green screen in a window, because you're not actually interacting with anything in the thing. And then everyone kind of looked at me like they thought I was crazy or something. But I was like, if we just put the boat and rock it and then put the green screen like far away, couldn't we just key in the backgrounds? And like, so all of the boat shots are in some way a composite, because we never put the boat in the water.
I can watch it again, because that's great. That was amazing work by Denver.
No, it really sold well on the thing. And we shot the plates. I mean, having done looking at the shots, then went out and shot the corresponding like plates that would line up. Yeah.
Amazing work. Now, this was another screenplay written by someone I know you work with a lot, Ryan Bright. How involved do you get in the actual screenplay and the structure of it, the dialogue, all of that? How collaborative is the process?
I mean, it's my third film with Ryan, my third short film. And I view filmmaking as a collaborative process. So I think that at some point you always have that person that you're bouncing ideas off. I don't think I've ever made a film without that person. Most of the time it's the writer. It's not always. But Ryan comes to set and we kind of make the film together, I guess. So I would say that I'm involved in every draft of the script. I give a bunch of script notes, but he also shows up on set and like gives me comments about how we're making the movie. So I view it completely collaboratively. I mean, and I know that I can go there with him because we've done it before. I mean, it doesn't always work out that way, but we seem to have similar sensibilities.
Interesting, and I'm also curious. So you issue kind of final script. You're going to camera. The end work, once you've got actors involved and it's really coming to life, how much of a change happens in the script, if any, from your kind of final issuance before going to camera and what ends up on the screen? Like, I guess what I'm getting at is how much of impact do your actors make to your work? Do you make many changes or? Yeah.
I mean, I'm willing to take thoughts from anywhere. Like when we showed up at that location, the script changed. When we saw like what the layout was, and when we realized that we finally had it booked and we blocked it, it was like, oh, okay, this scene should actually be different. It should be up here like this. And it's definitely a discovery process for sure. And if something's better, like on the day, I'm not going to be beholden to whatever was written down. But obviously, like the plot points of the thing, you don't want to miss that, or probably shoot it as scripted. And then totally willing to like have it go in a different way. And this particular film was so collaborative with the actor because Chad was the only actor in the movie. Oh my God, I'm giving that away on the thing. But he was playing against himself in the thing. So he was giving notes to the body double about the way that he would do the performance because he was doing both the performances, except he needed to use another person in order to like help facilitate that. So it was that one was, or We Came from the Sea was definitely more collaborative in terms of the actor because he was, it was the Chad Rook show in a way because he was playing both parts in the thing. So definitely like hearing his performance and what he was going to do with it definitely colored things about it for sure.
Now, how long since its first screening of We Came from the Sea? When was it premiered?
I'm so bad with time. I think it happened in the pandemic, so it's got to be like a year.
Okay.
Happened last year. I'm terrible with like dates.
That's okay. The only reason I'm asking because it's clearly, I mean, it's this visually stunning film about addiction. So I'm wondering if you've had any feedback from your audiences. Yeah,
no, I definitely have. I mean, it's hard because I haven't had any live screenings of this movie. They've all been over the internet, which is bad because like it's the moments where the people come up and talk to you after the screening where you get like the biggest insights. And I totally missed that. I have not had that. We had I had one screening live. The Directors Guild sponsored the movie and they put on a screening of it. And that was my only live screening of it. And I go back to that where the people who came out to me in the foyer and gave me all their thoughts about it. It seems to resonate about the thing. The location was definitely so awe-inspiring that as strange as this is to say, I kind of wonder if we should have shot it in a different place. I know that seems crazy, but it was just because it was so powerful as far as overshadowing maybe some of the things. But that's the only thing that I think I've learned, if that makes any sense about the thing.
From addicts that I have spoken to, the process of recovery can feel very isolating. And in that, I think your location was perfect. I think it's okay to that. The isolation addicts many addicts feel moving through recovery.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was meant to feel isolating. It's just because the location was so grand in its thing. It was definitely not a thing that I could ever afford living in. I probably couldn't even afford renting it out on vacation because it was so grand looking in the thing. But it was just hard. But like that was the idea. It was that it was supposed to feel isolating because the movie was. We don't really ever step outside of his world the entire time. And I like that location because the ocean played really well in all the windows, and it was supposed to make him feel kind of small and insignificant. In terms of that, if that makes any sense.
Totally makes sense. Yeah, totally makes sense. Okay, thanks, Jeremy. I want to move along because we want to chat with Deanna now, and maybe we'll have some time for some wrap-up questions. So Deanna, so Lucid, you were the CineSpark winner in 2019, and then we had the whole pandemic thing. So
Right. Well, it was actually Claire Robertson penned the script, and I'm the director. So she won the screenwriting contest.
Oh, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Yeah, I'm trying to go back to the pitch event. So, when were you brought into this project then?
Well, Claire and I were working on the story together on Salt Spring and a few different stories. But when the contest came up, we put Lucid in as our because we had just applied for some funding for it with another body, and we didn't get the funding. And then so we were pretty excited to get the pitch, and the pitch was scary. That was really scary to do, and I'm sure it's happening this Thursday night as well.
Wednesday.
Okay, Wednesday, yeah. So we're both kind of shy, so we're really scared to do the pitch, but we did it. We got so excited and won, and then we're like, okay, now we got to make this movie. So we had just done another film with Ramsey Fendel, the cinematographer in Victoria. So he was really loved the script and wanted to do Lucid with us, and it's a big collaborative process for sure. So part of it was shot on Salt Spring Island and the rest in Victoria.
Yeah. Now, so can you kind of summarize for the viewers what the film was about and what your intention was from the directorial standpoint? Like, you had the script. What was it you wanted to bring to the words on the page to get the story to connect with the audience?
Well, it's a story set in the 1990s. And it's about a young woman who's an artist, and she's trying to deal with a lot of critical voices that she has in order to really determine what she really feels is the core of what her art is about. And she is really influenced by her peers and by what other people are doing, and really tends to kind of disregard what she thinks is beautiful and what she thinks is important, because the stuff that she likes is gross. Basically, she likes things or really wanted to set in the 90s. That was an era, in my 20s that was really influential in the way that that dealt with the gross and beautiful thing really well, because we loved that sort of grunge aesthetic and at that time, and that fits really well with this theme. And I just wanted it to be a film that people could relate to in the way that you have to trust yourself and your inner voice.
It was also interesting from my perspective to take a look back to that era, because now we've kind of wrap our heads around what kids are facing in a connected world and internet and social media. And it was interesting to take that step back and see what life was like for teenagers during a time when the social media didn't exist, but they're still the subjects of the judgment and the bullying and the, being outcast and all that. So what was the audience you wanted to connect with?
Well, we were hoping to connect with people that had been there, that had been through the 1990s. So there was a nostalgia factor. But what we have found, and I have teenage daughters. I have a 15-year-old and a 19-year-old, and they're both really influenced by the fashion and music of the 1990s. Like, that's cool now. So like there was that whole aspect, and a lot of the actors that we were working with were in that age group, and that's kind of a romantic period for them, which is crazy if you think about how doesn't feel like that long ago, but it is almost because it was, like you're saying, it was the tipping point of before, there wasn't the social media or those kinds of influences. So it's sort of romantic in a way.
Interesting. So now with this screening, and because this is a CineVic hosted event, I just want to ask you about the process. So you did the pitch event, you were awarded the film. So the support that you got, how impactful was it on your ability to make this film? Is there a chance that you would have made the film regardless, or was this kind of, it really took this support to get the film made?
It was a good push for us to go ahead and make the film. We did do an Indiegogo campaign to help us with the funding for it, because we had some expenses as far as wardrobe goes, and you know, everything, feeding the crew, you know, all the typical stuff that you have when you're trying to make a movie. So we did an Indiegogo campaign, but and then the main camera that we used was from CineVic, but also Ramsey Fendall, our cinematographer, has film cameras, which is because we also shot some of our film on 35.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so now, you know, it's funny, I always start off these sessions wondering, oh my God, how are we going to fill an hour? And then I'm always towards the end, I'm going, oh my God, I still have so many questions to ask. So David, I think we're going to start to bring this to a close. Not quite over yet, but I do want to ask a couple questions. So I want to bring all the filmmakers back on and ask about next projects. I mean, next projects, and where do people stay in touch? I always wrap up with that. So
if I can jump in, maybe there's one question in the YouTube chat. So maybe we'll jump to that first, but it is kind of for the whole group. I'll just bring that up.
Got it. Okay. So David, excuse me. Yeah, there we go. Great question. Thank you, Claire. With so many film festivals available to filmmakers, and there are thousands, and everyone bearing a submission fee, probably from a few dollars, like $5 or $10, up to I think the highest one I've seen was $125, but there may be some that are more expensive. So with all the film festivals, the submission fees, how do you each make decisions about which festivals you're going to submit to? Deanna, let's start with you.
Hi, Claire. Claire is our writer and producer.
Yes,
we weren't sure at first. So I was starting to submit to, of course, there's major film festivals that I have, like, I'm hoping and that we get into. But I think that our film is clearly like a genre film. So, which is sort of, you know, it can be obvious to people, but I wasn't necessarily like seeing it as that until recently. And so we're kind of going the horror genre route as far as film festivals go, and I don't know. I mean, we're applying to some bigger ones and some smaller ones, and I don't know, maybe you guys can tell me how the best way to do that, because I'm not really sure. So,
well, let's go to Jeremy then. So Jeremy, how do you make that decision?
Yeah, film festival entries have gotten so expensive over the last little while. Like I'm going to totally date myself here, but when I first started doing this, it was fairly inexpensive, but there were also less people making movies. And now, like, the average film festival thing, I think, is $50 US on a lot of them, and like, wow, a lot of thing, and that adds up really high. So I give my, like, what are you trying to get out of the film festivals? For me, I like to go, so I will write a list of either places that I think I could afford to go, places that are nearby. Would I actually go to this thing, and are there events? Because I like to go, and if the film festival has like a lot of events, then I'll be like, okay, I'll probably meet some people there. If there's a market, even better. Because that's my goal about that. But like, and the other thing is, am I actually going to get into the thing? And this is a thing that I learned after having done this for a while. If you look at the previous year's programs, you can actually guess, like I mean, still go for the big ones, still like take some chances on like things or not. But like, if you're just trying to get into things, like I made a film called Giltrude's Dwelling, and I could go to the short programs and I was pretty good at guessing if it was going to get in. just judging on, do they like this whimsical, like kind of fantasy thing? Have they ever programmed this sort of thing before? And then I wrote like a list of things that played movies like Giltrude's Dwelling in the past, and I had a much higher percentage chance of getting into them. But I had to I spent a long time on their website clicking around and looking at things and reading about the thing before I would make a decision, because it like costs so much now.
Yeah.
I was not so much blanket submitting like I had in the past, but more like, has this, like, do the programmers have the similar sensibilities to me? Because that's going to give me a way better chance of getting in. And then the other thing would be like, what am I going to get out of this? And like, if you're trying to win awards, then submit to the ones that have a bunch of awards rather than just best short. They have a bunch of categories, then try it for that. And like, I don't know, it's a tool, I guess, about the thing.
Yeah, great. Vaughn and Connor, your process for determining film festivals.
I think Jeremy nailed it. Doing your research, targeting specific festivals that you think might be a good fit for your film. But yeah, it's tough. You can spend a small fortune in submission fees pretty quickly.
And also, I want to add in, because I suspect this affects you guys quite a bit, is where you've screened before. Generally, if you've screened somewhere before, they love having you back. Like, I know Sedona loves the Gastons. Yeah, film festivals you've been in before, and particularly if you've participated. So, which also reminds me, if you haven't yet listened to CineVic's podcast, go to CineVic's podcast, the first one, which is a discussion with Brian Skinner about how not to get into film festivals, which is quite funny. So just a little side note there. And Noah, what do you have a process, or how are you determining which festivals to submit to?
I think that everyone else pretty much covered everything. I don't know what else I can add, but maybe I will say that one of the most interesting aspects of submitting to film festivals is the element of surprise.
Mm-hmm.
You don't quite know who's going to accept your film, and you'll never really know why they turned it down. It could be because they loved it but couldn't program it. Maybe they hated it. Maybe it was a bad movie. Maybe they didn't feel it was for them. You'll never know.
Yeah.
So in a weird way, you have to have a balance between kind of that crazy feeling of just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks, while also targeting the best you can and trying to optimize your chances depending on where you choose to submit.
Yeah, good advice. I also want to add for new filmmakers, so not so much you guys here, but people who may be listening. If you're a new filmmaker, try and get an experienced filmmaker to sit down and watch your film first, because you might think it's worthy of Cannes or TIFF or one of those, but having an experienced filmmaker's voice take a critical look at your film will save you a lot of money in the end, I think. So I always recommend people have another individual watch their film before they begin their submissions. I've seen people waste hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So anyway, okay, so a quick lightning round for everybody, and then we're wrapping it up. And that is, where do we follow your work and what you're up to next? Like, is there a social media platform or website or whatever that you're particularly active on? Deanna, where can people see what you're up to?
Sublunar Films is my production company that I formed with Ramsey Fendel, and we're both working on feature projects next. So
great. Okay, so Sublunar Films. Noah.
You can follow my Instagram at npenner_in_film. It should be elsewhere on the CineVic website.
Okay, sorry, npenner_in_film?
That's it.
Got it. Okay, Instagram. Vaughn and Connor. I know how much you guys love social media.
Yeah. I guess I have an Instagram at Connor Gaston.
Okay.
Yeah,
Vaughn, are you on social media?
I let Connor handle the public relations.
Perfect.
I have a landline.
Sorry?
I have a landline.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Jeremy.
I'm on most social media platforms, Instagram and Twitter and all that, just as my name, Jeremy Lutter. I mean, my company is Broken Mirror Films, but I definitely, more easy to find me is under my name. And I'm making an audio drama podcast called Ghost Town Killer, which I'm going to shamelessly plug, which comes out on May 25th. It was a COVID project that I made all in lockdown with remote recording actors, and it'll be Ghost Town Killer on all podcast platforms.
Okay, not one to watch right before bed, it sounds like, but okay.
Probably not.
All right, David, I don't know if you want to come back and close the show, or if you want me to do that.
I'd say you can go right ahead. I just want to make sure we touched it on everybody. Did we miss Deanna on that? Did you answer that?
No, Deanna
yeah.
started.
Oh, you did. Okay. In that case, I was just curious. Noah, you mentioned your social media, but what are you working on next?
I've got something in the works. I'm in the early pre-planning stages for a project to hopefully shoot later this summer. I've always got a few things up my sleeve. It's a little too early to give details, but it'll be good.
All right, sounds good. I just didn't want to leave anybody out. Okay, yeah, feel free to just wrap her up here.
Okay, well, thanks everybody for participating, and thanks for making these films that were part of an exceptional short circuit program this year. Thanks to Jeremy for editing the trailer and for putting me in it. Thank you. So it was a great session. I probably only got to about 70% of the questions that I wanted to ask, but the clock was working against us. So thank you all, and we hope everybody will tune in to the CineSpark pitch event, which is happening on Wednesday night. And I believe that is also a live program. Please go to cinevic.ca for details, or look up the CineVic Facebook or Instagram pages, where all the links will be provided. So thank you all again for your contributions and for giving up your time to share some insights about your storytelling filmmaking experience. So thank you all.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Darlene.
Thanks, Darlene.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.